This is Sean Show, episode 2. This place where I take situations, topics, problems that are interesting to me on that day and reduce them down to what actually matters. So today, let's talk AI. AI has been all over my head recently, and no shock, right? I feel like when for me it felt like OpenAI and ChatGPT really hit mainstream in about 2022, 2023, right around there. And I work for a software company, and the past 3-4 years it's all been about AI. How are we using AI from a corporate technology standpoint to empower, enable our employees? And again, it's a software company itself, so how do our products implement AI so that it enables, empowers our customers? It's all over the place. And I found myself rolling my eyes a little bit at the whole AI movement, and not because I didn't think, not because I thought it was meaningless. I never thought it was meaningless. I knew it was absolutely huge. But it felt like so many people were trying to implement AI for the sake of checking a box, for saying, "Hey, look what I did. I implemented this AI thing." Okay, but what does it solve? How is it actually providing value? So that's what we'll talk through today. Recently, I've gone farther into understanding where does it fit in my life, and what's the word I'm looking for? Buffering, uh, mitigating that. Again, corporate speak, trying to get away from it. But how do I figure out where it fits in my life and still not, and how do I honor the things that I'm concerned about with it? Because there are some very real concerns. You know, let's dive into some of those. For me, I'll I question how are we gonna handle the. Actually, no, I'm gonna pause there. I'm not an expert on that. I don't want to dive into something that is pure speculation, even though this is for me. This is again about it's about reducing the topics that interest me into what I believe really matters, and speculation is never what really matters, right? It just puts energy out there that people latch on to and they love to eat it up. It's like gossip, right? Speculation is 100% gossip, and I'm not going to do that. So let's stick to the concerns that aren't speculation and instead talk about concerns of, like, what is AI going to do with regards to pictures and videos, and how good these tools are getting at creating its own AI content, and how real it's starting to look to all of us. It is, yeah, it's getting really hard to tell what is AI, and that is concerning to me, because in a world driven by money, and I believe money is a byproduct of trust building, then how do you know what to trust anymore? That's concerning to me, when you don't know whether a video you see, a clip you see on TikTok, or a picture that's sent in your family group chat. Like, you don't know if it's actually, if it was a real picture, a real video. That is concerning to me. So again, though, how have I found a place for AI in my life right now? Early on with AI, I was using it more of like a Google, a glorified Google, right? Just a search engine, a search prompt, and there's definitely a place for that. But I think that it's missing the boat if you take whatever you used to Google, like restaurants near me, and you now plug that into an AI LLM, right? You choose Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot, whatever it is you want to use. If you're taking a Google search and plugging it into there, you're not getting the value of what AI is doing. And so I've started thinking about, how do I use AI to reduce the time that I'm spending on something? And in the case of that, right, if I was going to Google before in order to search for something, then I've started thinking through, like, well, why am I trying to search that, right? If let's use something like restaurants near me. Okay, well, why was I searching restaurants near me? Well, I was searching restaurants near me because I wanted to find a place to eat. I wanted to find something that fit my taste profile, was the types of foods that I like, and if I like these other places, then show me things that are like that. But under the old Google search, the search engine platform, I had to deduce all of that myself, right? That's why we all had to only search restaurants near me. And now I need to comb through those results and say, okay, does that sound like what I'm in the mood for tonight? Does this sound like what I'm in the mood for tonight? Then you'd have to comb through the reviews, or, hopefully maybe somebody who had been there or something. You need to find a way, especially if you're going to try a new place to eat, you've got to figure out, how do I distill out whether or not this is going to taste good? So great, I want a burger tonight, but I've never been to this burger place, and what if it's a dry, thick meat patty? I don't like hockey puck hamburgers, not my style. So that was the why of doing the Google search before. So now use that why in how you're interacting with these AI models, ChatGPT, Claude, again, whatever it is you use. Start to prompt it for what you're trying to solve. That's where I initially found a lot of value. So now I'd go into ChatGPT and say, here's me. I like, these types of foods, and these are the restaurants I've been to that I thought were really good. I'm more in the mood for this type of food than this tonight, and give me a recommendation of places, within 10 miles of me that offer takeout or delivery. Now, when I prompt it with that, now I'm getting a ranked list. If I asked it to rank, it could rank the list, or it'll just give me back, however many results I asked it to return. And now I'm using the AI engine to do that thinking for me. That's where I first got value, which, that segues into another concern, doing the thinking for me. One of the concerns I have with these AI models is, if we are offloading that critical thinking or that research capability, then we're not stretching that muscle anymore. And so then what does that do for our ability to do that on our own without the help of an AI model? Which, throwback to episode 1, maybe that's part of why I feel like I've been getting worse at taking my thoughts out of my head and putting them in front of whoever I'm interacting with. Maybe there's been too much grammar checking and spell checking and too much technology in how I show up on a day-to-day basis, that muscle has gotten weak. So yeah, that's a concern of mine with AI. But I would never say that means that we don't use it for those things. For me, that means we've got to figure out how to exercise those muscles in a different way. Easy analogy for me is, horse and buggy when going to a car. Doesn't mean that there wasn't a place for horses anymore when the car was invented and mainstreamed. It And it didn't mean that the people who were working on horse and buggies, that all of a sudden they weren't going to have a job. It just meant that they had to adapt, evolve, and figure out in this new world, where does it fit and how do we keep these things moving forward. And I think that's really true with how we critically think about about topics now, with the advent of AI. That, yes, for the sake of productivity, we are going to be able to offload and outsource, delegate a lot of that thinking into these AI models. So how do we keep those muscles worked out in our own brains so that when we don't have them available to us because we're not at a computer or not on our phone or just need to have a conversation with somebody across the table, that we're still able to do that without reaching for a device, right? Where else? So analysis, right? That was one use case that I first got value out of AI. The next one was, I guess the next one was discovery, which is really kind of, I've already talked about that. It's the analysis and the discovery. How do I find new places, new things, new things to do that I would enjoy based off of interests? So again, rather than Googling, date night activities near me for my wife and me, then prompting AI to instead say, hey, my wife and I are looking for a date night. We're in this region, this city, and these are the things we've done in the past that we've enjoyed, and using it to extrapolate what our interests are and then comb through all of the results out there on the internet of what we would likely enjoy. But then the one that I've jumped onto recently has really been the productivity aspect. So I'd been holding off on that for a while. I wasn't entirely sure. I was struggling with finding what I would call like a productivity use case. Again, corporate. I gotta have like a flag to pop up and flag every time I use these corporate jargon, corporate words like use case. But one for me was email. I turned off all of my email notifications probably 2 years ago now, and really turned email into something where I need to go into the app and decide to process it. I love not having the notifications on my home screen. I'm trying to limit, how much I grab at my phone, which is a whole different topic for a different episode. So I love not having the notifications. However, there have absolutely been instances that I have gotten used to not checking my email, and I go days or a week without going to it. And then when I do get into it, there's so many emails that it's overwhelming to me to start scrolling through them and figuring out, are there ones that I need to act on? Are there ones that have information I should be looking for? I had one from my mom that I went back in and I saw it like 3 weeks later, and she had asked me a question. And so I sent her a text. Now, granted, I sent her a text. Let me finish that thought, right? I sent her a text saying, hey, I just saw your email. Did you want me to take a look at this? And then she texted back and was like, nope, I got what I needed. I moved on. And granted, that's my mom, right? Where if it was critical, she would have called me or texted me and actually told me, hey, I sent this to you. But it's also not how I want to show up through email. I don't want people to think that they have to email me, or that if they email me, that then they have to reach out in a different way in order to make sure I see it. So I started thinking on that with AI, and I decided that, or I kind of weeded through it and realized, the things that bother me about email are absolutely junk marketing emails. And no matter how much I feel like I click unsubscribe on things, there are companies that I feel like the unsubscribe button does absolutely nothing, even though it's supposed to. But I'm not going to track that down, right? I'm not going to go after a company for whether or not they're compliant with whatever law is supposed to happen on that, whether if there even is one. Or they sell the data, right? Because even if I tell them that I'm unsubscribing from their marketing list, I am guessing that when I first signed up, I probably agreed to a terms and conditions that lets them sell my email to somebody else. So yeah, that's all to say. I feel like the unsubscribe button is a band-aid. Like your artery has been nicked and you're gushing blood and you're trying to put a band-aid brand bandage on it to stop it. You might get a little relief, but it's not a permanent solution. So those are overwhelming to me. The other ones that popped up were all the newsletter type stuff. So now there's the stuff that it's not junk marketing, but it's things that I do want to know about. But reading all of those emails is just not what I want to do. It's not how I want to spend my time. And then there's the ones that need me to action on them. I'm moving on to the next. Then there's the category of ones that need me to actually respond to. I need to read this one email, craft a response, give it to them. And so then I decided I'm going to build an AI agent, and that's what I've been working on. So building an AI agent that can read my email. It will list all of the ones in a junk marketing category that I have deemed are marketing, so that I don't even look at that. And then it will bundle all of my newsletter style, whether it's newsletters from kids' teachers, the school district, or our HOA newsletter. It'll group those into another category. Only for that category now, I'm calling this my FYI category. I am now having my agent go through and read all of those emails and give me a bulleted digest. So that instead of, again, clicking into each one and seeing what's happening, I can look at this bulleted digest that tells me what are the key takeaways from these emails, which has been really exciting. I've loved it. On those two categories, right, marketing and FYI, I want to get it to the point now that it takes action back on my inbox, so that it will, after categorizing those, it'll delete my marketing emails, and then it will archive all of the FYI emails. And again, on this report that I get, which right now is through an iMessage, I can see which ones are listed as like junk marketing. So when it deletes them, if I see something that shouldn't have been labeled that, I can go into my mailbox at that point, and I can grab it out of the trash, get it back into my inbox, and deal with it the way that I need to. And for the ones that are archived, then I can always go back and grab those because they're archived. So yeah, like I said, having a lot of fun with that one. I'm liking this whole productivity aspect of AI, and how can I turn it into my own digital admin assistant. Because I've always loved that concept of having somebody that can take care of all of that stuff, be your front door to the world. So why not? Why not train an AI agent to think like me and to take care of, again, the digital world? So I'm loving that. And if I'll cap it out there. I'll cap it out there to say that if anybody's curious about how that works, by all means, reach out to me, drop a note in the comments. And then I'll leave you with this, that, when we think about AI, where does it fit with you, right? I mentioned all of mine with the analyzing things, discovering new things, productivity unlocks. Where do you see AI fitting with you? And where do you have concerns about where we are with AI and where it's going? And maybe we all will work for the robots one day, right? But we'll see. So thank you. This has been episode 2 of Sean's show, and I appreciate anybody who stumbles across this.